The fragile ceasefire between US and Iran has come under renewed strain after Washington launched a fresh wave of military strikes on Iranian targets and imposed new economic pressures by revoking a key sanctions waiver. The developments follow fresh attacks on commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, raising fears of another escalation in the region. The US military carried out more than 80 strikes across Iran after 3 commercial tankers were hit by projectiles in the Strait of Hormuz. The US Central Command said the operation targeted Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of facilities, including air defense systems, coastal surveillance sites, anti-ship cruise missiles, drone launch sites, and more than 60 IRGC fast attack boats used to threaten commercial shipping. CENTCOM described the strikes as a response to what it called Iran's unwarranted aggression and said attacks were intended to impose heavy costs while protecting freedom of navigation through the strategic waterway. Iranian media reported that explosions on Kharag Island, Qasem Island, and in the southern port cities of Sirik and Bandar Abbas. While no civilian deaths were reported, several people were injured after projectiles struck commercial and fishing piers, setting several boats ablaze. In a significant escalation, Washington also revoked a license that temporarily allowed Iran to sell crude oil and petroleum products on the international market under last month's interim ceasefire agreement. The license, originally due to remain in force until August 21st, has now been cancelled, with US Treasury giving companies until July 17th to wind up transactions involving Iranian oil. The move removes one of the key economic concessions offered to Tehran under the ceasefire framework and immediately pushed global oil prices more than 3% higher. Iran condemned the decision as a violation of the agreement, warning it would take any measure necessary to safeguard its national interests and security. The latest crisis began after 3 commercial vessels were struck in the Strait of Hormuz, including the Qatari LNG tanker Al Riyaqat, which caught fire after reportedly being hit by a drone. A Saudi-flagged supertanker was also damaged off the coast of Oman. Qatar blamed Iran for the attacks and summoned Iran's deputy ambassador to issue a formal diplomatic protest. Tehran denied responsibility, saying commercial vessels face increased risks if they travel along routes that have not been coordinated with Iranian authorities. Iran has continued to insist that it has the right to regulate shipping through the Strait of Hormuz and is moving ahead with plans to introduce a permanent fee system for vessels under using the waterway. The military escalation came just hours after hundreds of thousands gathered in the holy city of Qom for the funeral of Iran's assassinated supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Meanwhile, indirect negotiations between Washington and Tehran remain stalled after talks in Qatar ended without a breakthrough. President Donald Trump has repeatedly warned that the United States is prepared to resume large-scale military action if diplomacy fails, saying Washington would either make a deal or finish the job.
Look, we're going to win one way or the other. We're either going to make a deal or we're going to finish the job, okay? And it won't be tough to finish the job. I'd rather make a deal because I don't want to affect 91 million people. We can knock down their bridges in 1 hour.
Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi responded that negotiations on a permanent agreement cannot begin while threats continue, stressing that the interim memorandum signed last month commits both sides to refrain from the threat or use of force. The latest exchange of military strikes, new sanctions, and attacks on commercial shipping has placed the US-Iran ceasefire under its greatest strain since it was signed. With negotiations stalled and both sides hardening their positions, concerns are growing that the window for a diplomatic settlement is rapidly narrowing.